up, y'all? It's me, Adrena Monet. Thank you so much for tuning into this conversation, continued discussion that we're gonna have on cerebral narcs and my experience with a female cerebral narc. I began the conversation a few days ago, and I'll link it above right about now. Or it's going to be that way, I think. And it's linked above, the initial intro conversation on cerebral narcs, and resources are also down below in that video description that are worth checking out. But I have my notes on my phone here, and so if I look down, that's why, because I have like a few paragraphs of me just having to detail and recollect, various main events relative to this topic of conversation. So as always, be sure to like the video, because that just helps to keep this video and conversation circulating as much as possible throughout the YouTube space. This conversation, I'm sure, can help at least 10 more, 20, 25 more people that have experienced much of the same, whether in the family dynamic, so-called friend dynamic, in the workplace, in school, all the above even. And so yeah, this conversation can help another 10 people. So why not like the video and then help the algorithm to share it out. Comment down below, because you guys know I love talking with you and hearing your feedback and own similar experiences with the various narc demons that are out here, unfortunately. Yeah, so like, comment, share, subscribe if you feel like to stay connected, and that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and get into this conversation. What it's like dealing with a cerebral narc. Glad you asked. Let's go ahead and define cerebral very quickly. Cerebral is really of or relating to the brain or the intellect or one's intellect. And so many of you guys know already that I can't say, and I won't say all narcs, but many narcs are know-it-alls, and this quality is part of their pretentious. It's part of their pretentious personalities. If you multiply such pretentiousness by 1 million at least, then you may very well actually be in the presence of a cerebral narc, male or female. And so in my case, many of you guys know that I dealt with a female cerebral narc. We call her Roach Face for short, thanks to Auntie Karen making up that perfect name for her. So shout out to Auntie Karen, but we call her Roach Face for short, and just, keep things lively around here. She is not only cerebral, but she's also very much covert, overt, and malignant, and she can be all 4 of those personalities in one day, okay, in the time span of just 24 hours, if not less than 24 hours. She can be all 4. And so from the YouTube space to the Discord space I ended up joining, I can recall Roach Face seeming to have sound knowledge, insight, and perspective on like just various topics of convo: cultural, social, historical, global, political, etc., only to gradually discern and learn otherwise. Learn that her knowledge that she spewed and interjected all the time and all kinds of stuff wasn't very sound when compared with solid sources and people sources and articles, stuff like that. So Roach Face is so cerebral that she seemingly hoards incredibly detailed facts, as in historical dates, historical figures, locations, like as if she were present for these moments. Like, and I'm so serious. And so if you didn't know better, and you didn't find serious flaws, erroneous perspective, etc., in much of the pseudo knowledge that she spews, you would think that she was like an actual scholar, like a genuine scholar, or even a professor. A counterfeit one, but you would think that she was a genuine scholar or a professor, because she just would pull out all kinds of details. And like I said, if you didn't test those facts that she spews, you would actually be fooled. I witnessed her hosting discussions on various cultural and other matters as if she were an undisputed and certified source of these matters. I also witnessed her engaging in daily convos with actual genuine intellectuals and people that are open, as smart as those people are and were, or just are, but as smart as those people I'm thinking of are, and I'm referring to, even they're teachable. They could be quiet in moments where a collective discussion was being had about whatever and whoever, right? and learning more in general. She would have to dominate those moments as well because, well, narcissist. So looking back on things, one way I know she managed to appear so smart is the power of the internet and the endless info we have access to, you know, in the digital space and everything. I imagine, much like she's archived my personal, you know, text and DMs with her and exposes those, you know, at whim, whatever. I imagine that she has, and actually I know her to actually do this because she actually would tell on herself. You know how narcs tell on themselves. So she would tell on herself because she does hoard like digital files and articles and things like that, saves websites, etc. In order to have such info handy to then spew into conversation, you know, at whim and everything else, at the most demonically, you know, opportune time to share such, you know, whatever, articles and information basically. And so I can remember Roachface making the confession between us privately, of course. She made a private confession to me of not really being as smart as she portrayed herself to be publicly. And yeah, that's pretty much what it was. We were having a conversation about something and she was like, oh, I'm not that smart, da 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 da. Yeah. I also remember Roachface boasting about a couple books that she'd ordered on like African figures. These, yeah, there were 2 books on 2 different African figures. And this happened about this time last year, because May of last year, from like the top of May, possibly even end of April, I think I was being devalued and didn't know I was being devalued. But May for sure, I knew I was being devalued because there was a change in our communication patterns, how frequent we were talking and all of that. Because at that time, when I was being devalued in May of last year, 2020, she was more aggressively and intentionally love bombing my guy and then luring him further into her demonic web, right? So this convo about the books on the 2 African figures I'm referring to, it was a text thread of public conversation, and, you know, in that general Discord space that I share about. And so the 2 of them were talking, but I was watching the conversation from afar and, you know, just observing, you know. And so she was having that conversation with him in order to further captivate him, demonically captivate him with her deceptive intellect, charm, etc. Because she knows that he's very much intellect and into, like, he's just very studious and all of that or what have you. And so, yeah. We know how narcs mirror, we know how they deceive, manipulate. They'll manipulate and deceive anyone and everyone of all ages, just everything. We know how they do. And so having a cerebral narc in a friend group, like what I experienced for quite a few months, or having a cerebral narc like in a professional setting, in an education setting like college, high school even, or whatever, can definitely be intimidating if you find yourself losing sight of all the intelligence, creative genius, etc. that lie in you, you know? Because, you know, narcs will have you questioning your instincts, your intuition, your discernment. So on top of that, add on having a full-on cerebral narc in your midst. However often you have the misfortune of having to deal with that cerebral narc, you know, you'll find yourself questioning, like I said, like, you know, your level of intellect and all of that, thinking like, you know, you just kind of, you know, you can question yourself if you're not careful. And so cerebral narcs like to portray a sickening sense of superior knowledge of all kinds, crossing people boundaries and executing their other demonic schemes whenever they are physically in an online or offline space. And of course, you know, we know narcs are competitive, male and female, older and younger narcs alike, okay, all of the above. We know that narcs are super and demonically competitive. It doesn't matter what it is, okay, like they're competing with you and you don't even know they're competing with you until you look back on things and all of that, okay? Or until maybe somebody who really has your back points it out to you, you know. Thank goodness for people like that. But yeah, and so, of course, you know, you're either good or bad in their eyes. Everything's like white and black. They have white and black thinking. They're better than you. You're inferior. Or in Roachface's words, so-and-so is beneath me. Like, people that snuffed her out, maybe they, and many people I'm sure, were and are not able to, you know, quite define what an actual narc is. And so, but they'll know something's off of her personality. And so, Oh, I was going somewhere with that thought, you guys. They'll know something is off with her personality, so they can't like call it out for that, but yeah, like people know. But yeah. Oh yeah, so people that get on her bad side, which is easy to do. I mean, you know. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, like when you snuffed her out and you kind of deal with her accordingly from that moment moving forward. You know, she really does go around telling, and she did it to me a lot of times, the people that snuffed her out and would leave the space because of the constant drama and tension and conflict and all that. I mean, she keeps going 24/7, as you can imagine. So when they left the space and stuff like that, rightfully so, she'd be like, oh, so-and-so is beneath me, so-and-so is beneath me, verbatim words. But anyways, it's just so good to be able to laugh about this stuff now, like almost a year later. Next month makes a year of me being narc free and moving forward. My goodness. But anyway, so bringing this whole conversation and video to a close, one thing I thought I had lost access to once I rid my life of roach face on June 4th of last year were some of my favorite people to have intellectual conversations with. Turns out that not only were those few people, including myself, not only are we intellectuals, but they also have minds of their own and are far too genuine to have remained in that space. That has since gotten a billion, and I do mean a billion times more abusive, toxic, unproductive, since, you know, I ended up leaving. And it also turns out, sorry, my phone was going off. My phone was going off, sorry y'all. It also turns out that I hadn't lost the goodness of being around people who helped me to grow in knowledge, you know, academic knowledge, cultural and otherwise, but I'd actually gained more time with them, you know, once I had become narc free. Like I didn't really neglect anyone, but you know, if you know me and you deal with me offline, you know how loyal, practically loyal to a fault, but you know, through growing in that area, you know how just loyal and consistent I am. And so I was consistent with her the same way, not knowing I was dealing with a monster, a demonic monster in disguise, okay? And so that, you know, has aimed to sabotage my life, has sabotaged my connection with the love of my life, you know, stuff like that, okay? So yeah. But yeah, so I really hadn't lost anything. And I remember one of my good people who left the same day I left the server. I mean, he left without question. Like, I'll never forget that day. And so, man, like he just really cheers me on. I'm just so thankful for him, seriously. Like he was like, we're not losing that. We're not missing out on nothing or whatever. We don't need that sort of just nonsense, you know, in our lives, basically. So shout out to that person. He knows who he is. Yeah, so I really hadn't lost anything, and it took a little bit of time because of course I'm immediately dealing with grief and depression the day I left the space. And we know how that goes. It doesn't matter what dynamic you're dealing with the narc in. Like when you disconnect from them and you work on going no contact, or you go fully no contact. For me, no contact was easy because it was very easy to go no contact. Yeah, because she betrayed me that much and that severely. But yeah, so additionally, not only had I not lost anything, but a bunch of fake friends, her being the ultimate one, etc. Additionally, in the various things I've learned from my faves in the past nearly 12 months and counting of being narc-free, I've also clocked numerous, and I do mean numerous, I've got like evidence, like screenshots of conversations about whatever the topic is, and then I think about how we discuss such things in the Discord space, and she of course was dominating such conversations in that moment and would say certain things, and like people that I know have solid like factual stuff with receipts and stuff, and I'm like, oh, so that wasn't true either. Oh, wow. But that demonic confidence is something else. That demonic confidence is truly something else. But anyway, so additionally, I've also clocked numerous erroneous statements made during the intellectual convos I witnessed Roachface dominating. Go figure, right? And so, yeah, I mean, when I think back to just everything I witnessed in the 4 months I was in Discord and like the 4 or 5 months prior that I knew Roachface from YouTube, because again, I met her in YouTube live stream chats on an acquaintance's channel. I'm just like, wow. You can laugh at it now, but still, it's just like, wow. But nevertheless, I do hope this video and conversation provides you with a pretty decent glimpse of what it's like having a cerebral narc in your midst. And goodness forbid you deal with this on a regular basis. My heart goes out to you. I mean, my heart goes out to you, but I mean, you know, being narc free is very much a possibility regardless of the dynamic in which you dealt with narc, whether it's a family person, a family member, relative, a fake friend, a colleague, even a client. I can imagine, because I've had bad clients, and I've had some interesting business clients. None of them are narcs, but they were definitely toxic and problematic otherwise. But so I'm just like, wow. But you know, there definitely is life, was what I'm getting at. There's life after dealing with this sort of demonic chaos, sabotage, destruction, manipulation. There truly is life after the fact. And so I do hope that the insight I gave, I mean, me telling these stories, these few, I'm sure like more, and I've got some people that can also, because they were actual witnesses to all that we dealt with. Me telling these stories is like barely scratching the surface. Like, it's one of those things, or these are like a series of moments that I just told y'all about. These are like a series of moments where, excuse me, these are a series of moments where you truly did have to like be there. Like experiencing it firsthand with Roach Face, especially experiencing all this firsthand is like way more mind-boggling than how I'm able to tell it in words. But nevertheless, I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. I hope you were encouraged by this conversation, my nightmare experience. And that's pretty much it. So I appreciate you for tuning in. My name is Adrena Monet. Comment down below. Let's keep the conversation going. And yeah, that's pretty much all I've got for now. I'm signing off. Peace, peace.